Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Welcome to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman. Mark is the star of the show, and he is on here on the radio every single week telling folks how to get ready for their retirement. You can get all kinds of wonderful advice just by listening to the show, lots of ideas, but Mark can't really get specific with you as far as your situation is concerned without knowing more about you, because there is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to retirement planning. 520-333-7601 is your number to call or text. And if you'd like to get in touch, 520-333-7601. Call or shoot a text in Mark's direction, 520-333-7601. We'll give you that number again in just a little while here. But Mark, it is great to be back on the radio show with you.
Ron, always happy to be here. Happy New Year. I hope you had a great holiday and everything.
Absolutely right. And here we are at the beginning of a new year. And for a lot of folks, it's turning over a new leaf, maybe making some resolutions to get their financial matters in order. And I know that you stand ready to help the folks who get in touch with you. And let's talk about investing like a genius. I consider you to be a genius when it comes to money. People are always studying geniuses and highly intelligent people, trying to get an understanding of what makes them tick. So I thought maybe today we could look at some of the common characteristics of highly intelligent people that you should apply to your financial life. First of all, geniuses are highly adaptable. Highly intelligent people are usually very flexible and able to thrive in many different environments and settings, sort of go with the flow. One researcher noted that intelligent people adapt by showing what can be done regardless of the complications or restrictions placed on them. Take a moment and explain why adaptability and flexibility are important in your financial planning.
Sure, Ron, and I appreciate the kind words. I don't consider myself a genius. I put a lot of time in and studied my craft and continue to do so, and I always try to make sure that I'm well prepared. But I do appreciate the kind words. But I think what has to be said is plans have to be adaptable and they also have to be flexible, just kind of like what you were mentioning. And the thing is, when we do a financial plan for somebody, that's a snapshot of where they are right now. Things will change for better, worse, and different. And as those things change with the markets, with people's situations, whatever it might be, the plan needs to change. And so we will make assumptions and try to project forward. But as we get new information in, we need to build that into the plan so we can see where you stand on an ongoing basis and making sure that you're always on track and that if things do come up, we've addressed those sorts of things. So I think plans, they have to be adaptable and they have to be flexible. Unfortunately, most people, the way that they invest isn't. They just hold on to things and don't change things. And as their situation's changing, they're not rebalancing and doing all the important things that are important to do.
Well, it's always important to reassess and reconnoiter and decide exactly where you are. Your situation may have changed, and that's why it's so important to have a financial advisor like Mark Silverman, a certified financial planner professional, the founder and the managing member of Silverman & Associates. We're talking about investing like a genius, and geniuses understand how much they don't know. The smartest folks are able to admit when they're not familiar with a particular concept. They're not afraid to say, I don't know, because if they don't know something, they can learn it. In other words, somebody asks you a question you don't know, you can say, I don't know, but I'll find out for you. And I know that's how it really is supposed to work, right, Mark?
Well, I think the point that you're making, and I've said this before, kind of goes along with my strategy of do what you do best and hire the rest. We're not experts in everything. There's certain things I know I do well, and there's certain things I realize I don't do well, and I outsource that. And so I think it's important that people understand that anybody that thinks they know everything about everything, I think we all know those kind of people. We soon realize that those people don't know much about anything. But with that being said, I think it's important that you do know what you're good at and know what you're not good at. And then if you're not good at something, realizing that is the first important step, and then making sure you get the right people in place that can correct that problem. And that's exactly what we do for our clients. And it's, we pride ourselves in taking care of the stuff that either, one, they don't have the knowledge to do, or the need or the want or the desire to do, and we'll take care of that for them. the best possible way.
There was a study recently that talked to students who had just taken the LSAT and asked those students how they thought they did. The students in the bottom 25% overestimated how well they'd done by more than 50%. Meanwhile, the students in the top 25% slightly underestimated how well they'd done. So the worst performers overestimated their abilities, while the best performers did just the opposite. Describe times that you've seen people think they know a lot more about their finances than they really did.
I would say right now, I have people come into the office, whether it be from radio or referrals or whatever it might be, that really think that they figured this out. And keep in mind, we're in the second longest bull market we've ever been in. The market's been almost straight up since 2009. So it's easy to look like everybody knows what they're doing. But the fact of the matter is, we know we're due for a correction. I don't know if it's this year, next year, or the year after, but we are due for something. And that's what's going to make people realize maybe they don't know what they're doing. And so, there is no silver bullet in what we're doing, but there is certain strategies and things like that we can help with. But the key of it is having a plan and knowing where you're going. And if you don't know where you're at right now, it's hard to project where you're going to be going without a full assessment.
I know an important thing to point out is that geniuses are able to learn from the experiences of others. Intelligent people don't have to experience everything for themselves. They're able to listen to or observe the experiences of others and draw their own conclusions. My question here is, how can people learn from the financial mistakes of others without having to experience that pain themselves?
What is the saying, learn from others' mistakes? Well, what I tell my clients is we can learn from what I've seen other people make mistakes with. And so that's the beauty of having done this for so long, is able to see, people do things the right way and seeing people do things the wrong way and trying to guide my clients and give them the right advice so they don't repeat those same mistakes. And I think that's really where a lot of the value that we are bringing to the people that we come in contact with.
Well, I know that there are a lot of folks out there right now who are thinking, I'd like to come in and talk with Mark Silverman. I've heard him on the radio for a while. I know he makes a lot of sense. And, it is necessary to reach out with a phone call and get in touch, or a text, whichever you prefer. What do you have to offer those folks who come into your office for the very first time? First of all, they meet with you, right?
They do. And Ron, it's a new year, and a lot of people like to procrastinate. I know we just got through the holiday season, the new year and all that. But if now is a perfect time to do this, because of the fact that you're going to get all your documents together, which you're going to need to do anyways, because we have tax season upon us. So whether you're a first-time listener to the show or you've heard me for a long time, if anything I said makes sense with you, this is now your opportunity to come in and have a conversation, like Ron said, with me. I don't pawn you off on somebody else, which is done here in my office to go through this process, and we like to call it the financial physical. I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. This past weekend, I was listening to some other shows on the radio, and there's a lot of ones here in Tucson. And I can tell you, most of these people, all they're doing is pitching products. And I think that doesn't solve what people are looking for. So rather, we're going to discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So again, whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. And as part of the financial physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets. And we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. This will become the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe still the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP, such as myself, can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. We try our best to help everyone. However, our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting to the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. That's your number to call, or you can send a text to that number, 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman's process is called the Financial Physical. So when you want to come in and have a conversation with Mark, it's just like going for a physical on your body. You go see a doctor on a regular basis, and Mark Silverman will put your portfolio through that same process. And of course, it probably is not going to be painful at all. You'll get a lot of information, and there is no initial cost or obligation. So go ahead and call this number or text this number, 520-333-7601. Just make sure you leave your contact information, and a member of the team will get back with you. Mark will set up a time, and you can come in and have a conversation. 520-333-7601. Mark's office is in Tucson, but he has folks come in from all over the southern Arizona area. Again, 520-333-7601. Call or text. This is Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman of Silverman & Associates. I'm Ron Stutz. More coming up after this.
At Silverman & Associates, we believe you deserve a financial plan that's customized to your situation. That's because no one strategy could possibly fit your unique needs and goals. From strategizing to execution, our goal is to give you undivided attention. Come in for a visit today and learn what it looks like to put your retirement dreams into action. Call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
Have you ever heard that story about the grasshopper and the ant? You know, the one where the grasshopper fails to plan in the spring and almost starves to death in the winter? Learn from that. Don't wait until it's too late to get your finances in order. Start your path to a rewarding retirement today. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. Ron Stutz here along with Mark Silverman. And here's your number to get in touch with Mark by call or text. Either way, 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. It's time for story time. And Mark Silverman, tell us about a time when you've worked with a widowed spouse. This could be a man or a woman who was saved from financial ruin because of life insurance.
Sure. And so we've had a couple situations where somebody had a policy. There's one case where the person didn't even realize they had a policy, and we were starting to go through all their stuff and found out that in this case, her husband had a policy that he had purchased. It was a paid up policy that had given her, tax-free, a lump sum of money, which really helped a lot because she didn't realize what she had, and we kind of helped her, and it made a huge difference. So, again, I'm not, and I've said this before, I don't think everybody needs life insurance, but I think in certain circumstances, it could make a lot of sense for a lot of people. But again, it depends on your feeling for insurance and what the situation is and what type and all those sorts of things. But insurance can play a big part in your retirement or part of your legacy planning or even your long-term care planning. There's lots of uses for life insurance rather than the traditional use of it that most people think about.
And there are certain cases where, you can, if you have a life insurance policy, you can actually, if you get really sick and have some kind of long-term care need, you can actually draw money out of that policy to help you while you're still alive. And a lot of people don't even know about that, do they?
They don't. And, it's a living care benefit. And we talk about it a lot here in the office as far as a strategy that works very well to leverage your money to cover for long-term care. And it's another way of doing it other than what most people think about, which is traditional long-term care insurance. This has a lot more options, a lot more flexibility, and we think it's a better solution. I personally do. But, it's something that you may want to look at if you're insurable.
There may be a lot of financial benefits that you can have right now and you don't even know about it. Mark Silverman knows about these things, so why not get in touch with Mark? 520-333-7601. You can call or text and get on the calendar that way, 520-333-7601. Then you can come in and have a conversation with Mark Silverman about your situation at Silverman & Associates, wherever you are in the Tucson area. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman, and there's more coming up, but first, this quick timeout.
Planning for retirement shouldn't be a mystery. So why is it so easy to get bogged down with financial terms and advisors who try to offer you a sales pitch? At Silverman & Associates, Mark Silverman and his team take pride in looking after their clients' best interests. They strive to educate you about the financial world. If you want a customized financial plan that's unique to your goals, schedule a visit with the team today. Schedule a complimentary review of your situation. Call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
At Silverman & Associates, we understand that life can be expensive. There are bills to pay, and you might have loved ones you want to look after. With all those extra expenses, it's easy to neglect your own financial health. We want to make sure you'll be well cared for when the time comes. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman with the one and only Mark Silverman of Silverman & Associates. Mark, of course, you're a certified financial planner professional, the founder and the managing member of Silverman & Associates. 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. You can call that number right now. You don't even have to wait till the end of the show. Or if you prefer, you can text that number, 520-333-7601. Mark, for the folks who may be joining us for the first time today, this show is all about financial planning and making sure that you're set in your retirement years. You don't have to lie awake at night wondering if you're going to outlive your money. Nobody wants that kind of a situation. I know that with all the folks that you've met with over the years, you've met a lot of people who say one thing and do another. For a lot of people, what they say and what they do don't necessarily match up. So I thought today we could look at some examples in the financial world where you might be saying one thing, but your actual behavior indicates something entirely different, and you don't even realize it. For example, there are some folks out there who clip coupons and are really, really intense about shopping for deals, but then at the same time, they never really pay any attention to the fees in their investments. You know a few people like that, don't you?
You know, it always amazes me that people, and there's certainly nothing wrong with clipping coupons and trying to save money where you can. But when it comes to their investments, they have no idea how much money they're paying in fees and commissions and charges, and they have no clue of how much might be going out the window unnecessarily. And I'm not saying investments are free, and we don't work for free for sure, but it just amazes me how people don't have a clue on how much they're spending on their portfolios to have it managed or whatever it might be, or the products that they purchased, but then they're willing to, try to save a buck here or there at the grocery store. But that's just the way it is. I'd say probably 9 out of 10 people have no clue what they're paying. And part of it is due to the investor, but I'd also say part of that onus is probably on the advisor too, not being transparent and clear with how they're charging their clients.
Well, also sort of along the same lines, a lot of folks come in and talk with you for the very first time and swear up and down that they have a very low risk tolerance. They're not willing to have much risk at all in your portfolio. But then you actually look into the situation, you go through the financial physical and find out that they actually have way too much risk in their portfolios, and they never even knew it.
That happens a lot. And it's also probably given to the fact that we've had an up market since 2009. As I said earlier, this is the second longest bull market we've ever been in. And so with that being said, we have a process where we'll actually analyze somebody's risk tolerance. We have a online version that we use. We don't use the paper ones. We find it more effective. And we can actually take that number, and then we can pop in your current investments, see which investments you have, put it into the software, and actually show you exactly how much risk you're taking compared to how much risk you've indicated you think you're taking or want to be taking. And we can actually back test it and show that if we had another financial crisis of 2008, how much you would stand to lose, et cetera. And it's a really neat process to do. We do it without having to move assets or anything like that. But, it always amazes me. I'd say about 80% of the ones we do, we find that people are taking way more risk than they think that they're taking. Everybody says they want to be conservative. Everybody wants risk when the market's going up. And then everybody wants to be conservative when the market's going down. The problem is we don't know when that's going to happen. And so you've got to take the right amount of risk that you're comfortable taking that's going to keep you on track to achieve your goals.
If you'd like to come in for a no-cost and no-obligation conversation with Mark Silverman, the number to call or text is 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. Mark, of course, the principal at Silverman & Associates in Tucson. You know that there are lots of folks you talk to, and they claim that they love, one person will come in and say, I love my spouse, I love my wife, or I love my husband, but then that person doesn't make the right decisions to be sure that that other spouse is financially taken care of if something happens to them. That's kind of a common occurrence, isn't it?
It is, and that could be in a couple of different ways. And I think it's, where we see it is somebody that might have taken a pension that they've had and they took the higher amount, so they didn't have any benefit for the spouse, which is going to be a problem down the road, especially if the life expectancy of the spouse, maybe let's say it's the wife, has a longer life expectancy than the husband. Then we need to figure out how we're going to replicate that income when the husband passes away. I think the other thing is not including, spouses in the meetings. Usually there's one person that handles the investments and they don't want to get their spouse involved. If you notice, when we meet with people, we require both parties to be here. We have zero interest in meeting with someone if they're not going to bring their spouse. And there's a couple reasons for it. One is it's a community property state. The second thing is I have a fiduciary responsibility, so I do require both people to be there. And the third is really for the benefit of the spouse, because once that person who's handling things passes away, and that spouse that they never got involved into the situation has no clue on what to do. And we've seen many times where that person will meet somebody and be sold a bunch of products and stuff that's inappropriate because they had no idea and they weren't able to ask questions and build a relationship with the advisor. And so there's, it makes a whole lot of sense. And I don't think people are doing it on purpose. They just are not thinking ahead, and they're trying to have, there's a sense, I guess, of macho-ness, if you will, of not getting their spouse involved. And it's a huge disservice.
Certainly is. And I know that you also meet with a lot of people who come in and say that they would like to retire as soon as possible. But then on the other hand, they're not really taking the time to actually put some kind of a plan together so that they can actually do that. And that's pretty commonplace as well, isn't it?
It is, because people, I think they think they're fine, or they have a number in their head. Maybe it's $1 million. And once I get $1 million, I can retire. The fact of the matter is everybody's number is different. It depends on what age you are, what age you're going to retire, what's your life expectancy. Are you married? What kind of lifestyle do you need to keep? There's all sorts of different things that people don't think about. And so without a plan, we really can't tell you. And if you're working with an advisor that hasn't put the time in to do a plan, which is unfortunately most advisors, then they can't really tell you if you're going to be okay or not. And so the first step is really to have that plan that's going to tell you, can you retire? Maybe you want to retire, maybe you don't want to retire, but knowing that you can retire when you want to. And so without that knowledge, or without having somebody take the time to put those numbers together for you, you really never know. And so that's why it's so important. And we start all of our relationships off with a financial plan.
I know that there are folks out there right now who could certainly benefit from a conversation. And when they come in and have a conversation with you, they're not obligated to take it one step further. They can certainly walk away if they like after it's over. And one way or another, they're going to certainly learn a lot from just having a conversation with you and having you examine things and go through the planning process called the financial physical. What do you have to offer those folks who come in and walk into your office for the very first time?
Well, just like you get a second opinion on your health, why wouldn't you get a second opinion on your wealth? So again, whether you're do-it-yourself or already working with someone, this is now your chance to go through this process. As Ron mentioned, we call it the financial physical. Do you know what your investments are costing? We mentioned that earlier. If you're still working, are you on track to have the type of retirement you've always envisioned? Or if you're already retired, do you know if you or your spouse are at risk of running out of money while trying to maintain your current lifestyle? I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. This is much different than basically every other show that's on this station. In this initial meeting, we'll address issues of importance to you, provide an overall view of your situation, and give you some general advice on what needs to be completed. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting, just like I mentioned. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who've saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. Just as you want to reach a healthy life from a physical standpoint, you also want to reach and maintain great financial health. So our financial physical is just what the doctor ordered. We do try our best to help everyone, however our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting for the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. That is 520-333-7601. That is your number to call, or you can send a text to that number if you like. Just be sure to include your contact information. A member of Mark's team will get back with you, and you can set a time to come in and have a conversation with the one and only Mark Silverman. He's not going to put you off on somebody else. You will actually talk to Mark Silverman, the guy you hear here on the radio every single week. 520-333-7601. Mark is the founder and the managing member of Silverman and Associates in Tucson. You're a certified financial planner professional. And if you'd like to come in for the conversation, write down this number and go ahead and call this number right now. You don't even have to wait till the end of the show. 520-333-7601. Call or text. You're listening to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz, along with the one and only Mark Silverman. There's more on the way.
Mark Silverman is a lifelong Arizonan, and his firm is based right here in Tucson. When you come in for a visit, you can expect someone who's familiar with your community. At Silverman and Associates, our relationship with you is most important to us. We want to build you a financial plan that's unique to your goals. No generic products, no corporate red tape, just friendly folks looking to give you a comprehensive approach to retirement planning. Come in for a visit today and let us help you build a meaningful retirement. Call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
It's time to get to know Mark Silverman just a little bit better here on Saving with Silverman.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman with the one and only Mark Silverman of Silverman and Associates. I'm Ron Stutz, and it is time for our Getting to Know You segment today. And Mark, let me just ask you one question here, and I think maybe our listeners might learn a little bit more about you. What's your favorite sport?
That's a good one. I would have to say... You mean as far as watching?
Well, I guess watching or playing or participating. Let's just say watching. Let's make it easy.
Yeah, it's safer that way. Less chance of injury for those that know me. I would say probably basketball, probably college basketball.
Oh, okay. All right.
And football would be probably, equal or second.
Yeah. Why do you enjoy watching college basketball so much?
Well, U of A Wildcats, who unfortunately had a loss this past weekend that they shouldn't have lost, but we usually have a good team. Whereas football, and we don't have a coach right now, but with football, we've been average at best.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit more challenging. But I do like NFL and playoffs and that sort of thing.
Well, the cool thing is in college basketball, on any given day or night, depending on when the game's played, on any given day, one team can beat another team. Doesn't matter if they're ranked number one in the country or they're ranked at all or whatever the case may be. You just never really know what can happen. And
That's definitely true.
It's harder to make that true in college football, for example, because it's, but in basketball, there's, one person can just change the whole complexion of the game with individual talent, and sometimes that just happens. So, college basketball is fun to watch, no question about it.
I agree completely.
Well, that is our Getting to Know You segment here on Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman, and there's more coming up.
You finished school and worked hard to get your first job. You told yourself you'd save for retirement, but that old jalopy you bought when you were 16 broke down, so you bought a new one. You started to save, and soon you bought your first home. Then came pets, kids, and your world changed some more. You worked hard to provide for your family. You made sure your kids got a good education. You might be sending them to school right now. Or maybe it's the grandkids' turn. And of course, you're now making sure your parents are looked after. Through the years you lovingly sacrificed for your family, now it's time to take care of you. Love others well by taking care of yourself. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman to discover how to build a financial plan that'll continue providing for you and the ones you love for years to come.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman. Ron Stutz here, and Mark's number is 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. Call, or you can text if you prefer to do that. Mark is your certified financial planner professional, the founder of Silverman and Associates in Tucson, 520-333-7601. Mark, let's talk about traditional versus Roth. it seems that most people don't have a clear picture of whether they should contribute to a traditional IRA or a Roth. Let's discuss how to determine what's best for you. First, explain the difference, if you would, between the two types of accounts.
So a traditional IRA, the money that's going in is pre-tax. So you would write that off on your taxes. Let's say you put, I'll just throw a number out. Let's say you put $5,000 in for the year. You get to write that $5,000 off on your taxes. That money goes into an account and can be invested in however you want, mutual funds, ETFs, stocks, bonds, etc. And then it's going to grow tax deferred. At a certain age, which is age 59 and a half, you're able to take money from the account, which is going to be taxable to you as ordinary income. If you don't touch it, which most people, a lot of our clients don't, at age 70 and a half, they have to take what's known as required minimum distribution, where they have to take money out of that account, and the government will tell you how much based on your age and how much is in there, and that money's taxed as ordinary income whether you need it or not. A Roth IRA works a little bit differently. Let's say you put that $5,000 in. That's going to be after-tax money, so you've already paid money on that, so you're not getting the benefit up there. But that money's tax-free as well, grows tax deferred. And then once you take that money out, if you ever decide to take it out, that money's completely tax-free. There's no taxes due. So the way I like to explain it is if you put $5,000 in, which you get a savings on in a traditional IRA, and let's say after X number of years, it now grows to $25,000. So now you're going to be paying taxes on $25,000. You got a savings on $5,000. With a Roth IRA, you pay the taxes on the $5,000, but let's say it's in the same investment, it grows to $25,000. Now that $25,000 is tax-free. So, you have to check and see there's certain limits. Not everybody can contribute. You have to have earned income, et cetera. If you have a 401k and that sort of thing, sometimes you can't contribute to both. So you have to check and see with your CPA and find out what you can do. But as you probably can tell, I'm a fan of a Roth IRA. So if with all things being equal, I would much rather put money into a Roth IRA than I would a traditional IRA.
A lot of great things about a Roth, but why do you think so many people have contributed much more to traditional IRAs than Roths over the course of their lives?
Well, where we see most of them are people that are doing rollovers. Let's say they have a 401k through work or a 403b, a TSP, and they roll that into a self-directed IRA. That's why you see so much more money in traditionals. And quite honestly, most people aren't even aware of how Roths work. I'm amazed when people come in that they still have heard of them, but they didn't really know how they work. But if it were me, and if you're listening to this, let's say you have kids or grandkids that are just starting to work, they should all have Roth IRAs if they're eligible. It's just a much better way to go. And they've talked about getting rid of Roths. If they do, that would be a sad thing. But I think if people that already have a Roth would be grandfathered in, hopefully. So it's important to have Roths.
Yeah, go ahead and get one right now.
Right.
Don't wait, because you never know what's going to happen these days. You're listening to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman, and this is Ron Stutz hanging out with Mark for an hour here. Mark, why can't you've explained this already, sort of, but why can a Roth be so powerful? Why is it such a powerful tool?
Because the money is growing tax deferred, and all that money coming out is all tax free. There's some rules and restrictions. You have to hold it for 5 years. You have to be a certain age, that sort of thing. But that money that you're putting in is growing tax deferred, and it all comes out tax free, and you don't even have to take it out. So if you're 70 and a half, where you would in a traditional IRA start to take distributions at 70 and a half, if you don't need the money, you don't have to touch it. And so there are a lot of benefits there. And like I said before, in my opinion, the Roth is far superior than a traditional IRA.
Give us an example, if you would, of somebody who should contribute to a Roth instead of a traditional IRA.
Anybody that's eligible to contribute to either one, you definitely want to go with a Roth. It just makes more sense because all that money coming out, like I said before, is tax-free versus a traditional. It's going to be taxable.
Easy answer to that question. And one more question here while we're on this subject of traditional versus Roth IRAs. Give an example of a person who should contribute to traditional instead of a Roth.
I can't really think of too many ways unless you're not eligible for a Roth. But, if you do have like an old company retirement plan that you're converting and you don't want to pay taxes, you would roll that into a self-directed IRA, which would be a traditional IRA. In order to make it a Roth, you'd have to do what's known as a conversion, which means you're going to be paying taxes. But that's really the only time I would see that. But all things being equal, if you're putting contributions in my opinion, go with a Roth over a traditional any day.
Well, you were talking about how a lot of people don't really understand how Roths work. and they may come in and be really enlightened. They may be all enlightened already just by listening to this conversation on the radio, but come in and have a conversation with Mark about it as it relates to your individual situation. What else do you have to offer those folks who come in to visit with you and get to know you for the very first time?
Well, whether you're a first-time listener to the show, you've heard me for a long time, if anything I've said makes sense or resonates with you, this is now your chance to come in and have a conversation, like Ron said, with me here in my office to go through what we call the financial physical. And I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. Rather, we are going to discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. And as part of the financial physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets. And we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. This will become the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware by now, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one still locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP, such as myself, can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. We do try our best to help everyone. However, our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting for the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. Call or text 520-333-7601. As Mark said, this show is not like other radio shows on in the area here. It's not about selling products. It's not going to be a sales call. He's not going to try to push anything off on you. It's simply an informational get-together and a getting-to-know-you session. 520-333-7601 is your number to call or text to make it happen. Mark Silverman, certified financial planner professional and the founder and managing member of Silverman & Associates in Tucson. There are folks coming from all over southern Arizona into Tucson to have a conversation with Mark, and you could too. 520-333-7601. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman, and we'll have more coming up on today's show in just a moment.
When you reflect on your life, what would you like to see as your fondest memories? Summers at your favorite vacation spot? Ice cream with the grandkids after their first t-ball game? Maybe it was your great adventure across the world or volunteering with a local nonprofit. Of course, those memories are still in the future, although they're not as far away as you might think. Be sure you have a financial plan to make them happen. Don't find yourself worrying while enjoying that ice cream. Peace of mind is attainable in your retirement. With the proper planning, you can secure a meaningful retirement. At Silverman & Associates, we can help you make those dreams a reality. Schedule your visit with our team today. Call or text 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. We want to make memories with you. Get started by calling or texting 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601.
If you've ever asked yourself what a well-balanced financial portfolio looks like, keep listening to Saving with Silverman, and you'll find out.
Welcome back to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman of Silverman & Associates. 520-333-7601 is Mark's phone number. That is your Saving with Silverman number, 520-333-7601. You can call, or if you prefer, send a text to that number. Just include your contact information, and a member of Mark's team will get back with you, and you can set a time to come in to Tucson and have a conversation with Mark Silverman in his office about your your situation. There's no obligation. It's not going to cost you anything. 520-333-7601 is your number to get in touch. It is time for the request line today, and we have a great question today from Jerry in Oro Valley. And Mark, Jerry says he just looked at his Social Security estimate that shows how much he's going to get if he started at ages 62, 66, and 70. And he said he was blown away by how much more he would get at 70, so he's inclined to just wait until then to start it, even though he'll probably retire around 66 or 67. And Jerry went on to say that he assumes that putting it off like this is the best course of action for someone like him. What do you think?
Well, Jerry, that's a great question. And we do, as part of our process, is we will do a full Social Security analysis. The one caveat I can tell you when it comes to all this is life expectancy. So if we know exactly how long you're going to live, it's just a simple math equation. But we actually, like I mentioned, have software. We can show you how much you would get at the different ages. If you don't have a long life expectancy, then you might be better off at taking it 62. But if you do live, and typically it's around age 81 to 82 is what the cutoff is usually. Once you live past 81, 82, you are better off in a lot of cases taking it to 70 because you are getting 8% compounded per year for each year you defer it up until age 70. And the only place that you get 8% guaranteed these days, it's not from these annuities that these people are trying to sell you, is from the government. That's a true 8%, where these other people who are telling you that the annuities are paying 7, 8% are not the same thing. But it's a great question. But what you also have to think about when you brought that up is if you do retire before age 70, you've got to have other assets that you can draw upon in order to get you to age 70. So it's getting somebody that can put together a plan for you, that can put all the pieces together to show you how you can draw from these accounts up until 70. And then when Social Security kicks in, and that's going to cover some expenses, but you still need some more income also as well.
Well, it really is interesting that, all people have all kinds of different options when it comes to their Social Security, but, it's necessary to know all these things. And I know that's why it's one of the important reasons for coming in and have a conversation with you. Frank in Green Valley has a question for you, Mark. And Frank says, I rolled over a 401k to an advisor a couple of years ago. He put all of the money into something called American funds. Is that okay, or should I be invested in other things as well?
Well, Frank, good question. And American Funds, they're a decent fund family. It's a mutual fund company. So basically what they're doing is they're buying mutual funds. And I've said this before, in this day and age, there's better things out there than mutual funds. And American Funds is a good fund company, but they sell loaded mutual funds. And one, I'm not a huge fan of mutual funds these days. And two, I'm certainly not a fan of loaded mutual funds. But you probably paid a percentage to get into them. They're probably doing a halfway decent job just because the markets have been good. But you probably are paying a lot more in fees than you probably anticipate or even can see. So there are better ways of doing it. I can tell you, I used to use mutual funds back in the mid 90s. That was what we did with people. But, there's a lot better things out there. I personally wouldn't be putting my money into American Funds right now. Not that it's a bad company, but there's so many better things out there that have less fees, more transparency, and just a better experience with investing than just going with the fund family. And I'm not picking on, like I said, I'm not picking on American Funds, but pretty much every fund family. So you might want to get a second opinion and see where you stand and getting an evaluation done there.
Mark, you said these were loaded mutual funds. What exactly
American
do you
Funds
mean by
sells
that?
Loaded funds. Yeah, they don't sell no loads.
What does it mean by loaded?
Sure. Well, load means that you pay something to get into up front. So when an advisor sells you a fund, you may pay 5.75% to get into it, and if you put more in, you pay a little bit less. But you're paying what they call a load, which is a service charge. So if you put in $100, you're paying $5.75 out of each 100 is going to American Funds, which part of that's they're keeping, part of it's going to the brokerage firm, part of it's going to the advisor, et cetera. And then you still have your ongoing expense ratios from the mutual funds as well. So there's lots of fees. Again, the world has changed. Unfortunately, a lot of advisors haven't. That's the way that we did things, 20 plus years ago.
Okay. You got time for one more question here?
Let's give it a shot.
Got a question from Susan in Rita Ranch. And I've been waiting on somebody to ask this question because we've all been hearing a lot about this, Mark. And so this will be enlightening. Susan says, I don't know anything about Bitcoin, but I'm worried about missing out on the next big thing. Should I invest in it?
Well, Susan, great question. And I get this question probably 2 or 3 times from a week, probably from clients. But Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. Basically what it is, it started off in the dark web where people were using it to buy bad things, drugs and whatever else illegal things that they were buying. But, there's lots of cryptocurrencies that are out there, and it's been in the news. It's been in different magazines. Everybody's reading about it because everybody knows somebody that put in $10 a year ago. Now it's worth, $100 and that sort of crazy stuff. And that's true. There are people that have made money at it, but I wouldn't fall into that. It's not an investment that I would put any serious money into. If you have some money that you want to play with and you want to put it in there, great. But you don't want to put your nest egg again or any of your serious, money into one of these aggressive speculative investments. There's like over 1,200, I think, cryptocurrencies, which Bitcoin is one of them. Some of them are going to make it. A lot of them are not going to. Which ones are going to make it? Which ones aren't? Who knows? But it's kind of a crapshoot. And what I'm telling my clients is, if you want to play with it, go on your own and throw some money into it. But I'm not doing anything with my clients regarding any of these cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin.
Great questions today from Jerry, Susan, and Frank. Thank you so much for those questions. Hope those answers help. And Mark, I know that there are lots of folks listening to the radio out there today, and they have lots of questions for you. What happens when they go ahead and decide to give the number that I'm going to give them in just a moment to give a call or a text to send to your office? What happens when they come in to talk with you?
Well, Ron, I've had some great questions this week, and everybody's interested. If you go to our website, which is savingwithsilverman.com, you log in, you can click on radio and then submit your question, and maybe you'll hear it here on the air. But now it's my chance to ask you a question, and can you answer it honestly and objectively as possible? Aside from the happy hellos and how's the family, and aside from the occasional lunch or golf game, I get it. I'm as much friends with many of my clients that they become true friends over the many years. But I think the question has to be asked, especially in light of the stakes. Is your current financial advisor truly adding value beyond a doubt? And I'm going to repeat, is your current financial advisor truly adding value? It's a valid question, as a friendship or just relationship allows you not to be in a position to ask those critical questions. Are you talking about taxes? Are you talking about Social Security and risk and income and diversification and insurance and estate planning and healthcare? Are you having those annual reviews, but hopefully it's more frequently than that? Is there detailed follow-up? Is there accountability? If all of that is happening, congratulations, because you've got a great relationship, and send your financial advisor a thank you. But if you're not having that, if you're not feeling the value, if you're not having these in-depth conversations, then you owe it to yourself and really to your family to have a conversation with someone else, because if you don't, you're the one that's going to suffer. You're the one that's going to pay the cost, and it'll cost you in more ways than you'll ever know. Let us prove to you how we can help your money go further in retirement. Let us show you with our financial physical. I believe you'll be surprised at what you'll learn, and this won't cost you anything. So give us a call or send us a text to 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. Or check us out online at savingwithsilverman.com. That's savingwithsilverman.com. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. Again, that is your number to call or text, 520-333-7601. That'll put you in touch with Silverman & Associates. And, of course, Mark is your certified financial planner professional and the founder of Silverman & Associates. He's the managing member there. And when you deal with Mark Silverman's office, you're dealing with Mark Silverman. He's not going to put you off on anyone else. 520-333-7601. Call or text and set up a time to come in and have a conversation. It's the beginning of the year. It's a great time to do this, because you're going to have to put together all your financial matters anyway because of taxes. And why not go ahead and give Mark a call? 520-333-7601. Again, call or text. And Mark, it's been a pleasure being on the show with you today, and I feel as if you're going to get a lot of phone calls and a lot of texts from our listeners out there.
Well, I want to thank everybody for taking the time out of their day to listen. Again, we talk a lot about generalities and things like that in order to see how we can help you in your particular situation. Nothing happens until you reach out to us. So again, I want to thank you for taking the time and look forward to hearing from you if we can help in any way.
Mark Silverman is Silverman & Associates, and I'm Ron Stutz. We appreciate your being with us today for this edition of Saving with Silverman.
Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, product, service, or investment strategy. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified advisor, tax professional, or attorney before implementing any strategy or recommendation discussed herein.